Don't answer that phone.
Michael froze. The phone wouldn't stop ringing.
The passenger had already disappeared. Then a message appeared. Drive back now. 10 minutes earlier.
It had been a long Tuesday. Michael was just one ride away from ending his shift. That's when one last ride request appeared on his phone. Michael glanced at the request. Pickup. Central Business District. Destination. Riverside Apartments. It looked like an ordinary ride, so he tapped. Except, Michael had no idea. This ordinary ride would become the one he would never forget. Michael pulled over at the pickup point. A young man stepped into the car. He looked tired, but strangely, he kept looking over his shoulder before closing the door. Michael smiled politely. The passenger quietly said, "Good evening." Then the journey began. A few minutes into the journey, the passenger leaned forward. His voice was calm. "Please, don't follow the GPS." Michael frowned. "Take the next left instead." Michael looked at the GPS, then at the passenger. For a moment, he wasn't sure who to trust. Michael ignored the GPS and took the left turn. The streets became quieter. The bright city lights slowly disappeared. In the rearview mirror, he noticed the passenger checking behind them for the third time. Michael couldn't shake the feeling. Something wasn't right. Michael checked the rearview mirror again. A black SUV was still behind them. One turn, two turns, three turns. It never changed direction. The passenger finally spoke again. "Don't stop the car." Michael tightened his grip on the steering wheel. "Who are they?" he asked quietly. The passenger looked through the rear window, took a deep breath, then whispered, "I think they're following me." Michael looked ahead. He had accepted this as his last ride of the night. Now, it had become something far more serious. Michael glanced at the navigation screen, then at the mirror. He had two choices: pretend nothing was happening, or trust his instincts. He made his decision. Michael turned the steering wheel, but not towards the destination. Instead of following the original route, Michael drove into a brightly lit 24-hour fuel station. Other cars were there. Security cameras covered every corner. He looked into the mirror and calmly said, "We're not alone anymore." The black SUV slowed down. It stayed outside the station for a few seconds. Then it made a U-turn. The passenger finally broke the silence. "My name is Daniel," he said. "I work as a software engineer. This evening, I discovered something at work that I was never supposed to see." Michael listened without saying a word. Daniel looked out of the window, then quietly said, "If I'm right, tonight changed everything." Michael kept his eyes on the station entrance. "Why would anyone follow you?" he asked calmly. Daniel looked down at his phone. He hesitated, then quietly replied, "Because I have something they want." Michael frowned. "What do they want?" Daniel slowly reached into his backpack. Daniel slowly opened his backpack. He didn't pull out cash. He didn't pull out a weapon. He held up a small USB flash drive. Michael looked confused. "Everything is on this drive," Daniel said. Michael stared at the tiny flash drive. "What's on it?" Daniel took a deep breath. "Proof." Michael looked at the flash drive, then back at Daniel. "I don't need to know what's on it," he said. "I just need to know one thing. Are you trying to protect someone or hurt someone?" Daniel answered without hesitation. "Protect someone." Michael nodded slowly. "Then let's make sure you get somewhere safe at that exact moment." Daniel's phone rang again. Daniel looked at the screen. His face immediately changed. The same unknown number, calling again. He didn't answer. A few seconds later, a text message arrived. Daniel opened the message. His eyes widened. He quietly whispered, "They know where we are." Michael took a slow breath. "Stay calm," he said. He stepped out of the car and walked towards the fuel station. Manager Dot. Within seconds, the manager called the police. Michael wasn't trying to be a hero. He was trying to do the right thing. A police patrol vehicle arrived a few minutes later. Michael looked at Daniel. "You're safe now." The police spoke with Daniel Dot after listening carefully. One officer turned to Michael. "He did the right thing." Double quotes. Daniel had discovered evidence of financial fraud at his workplace. Instead of staying silent, he chose to report it through the proper channels. Michael looked at Daniel, then smiled. Sometimes, doing the right thing isn't easy, but it's always worth it. Before leaving, Daniel walked over to Michael. "You could have ignored me," he said. "Instead, you chose to help." Michael smiled. "Anyone would have done the same." Daniel quietly replied, "Not everyone." Michael got back into his car, started the engine, and drove into the sunrise. It had started as just another ride, but it became a night he would never forget. 1 week later, Michael was back behind the wheel. Another ordinary evening. Another ride request. But this time, he smiled before pressing accept, because he had learned something. Every passenger has a story. Sometimes, the biggest difference you can make is simply choosing to stay calm, listen, and do the right thing. Because every stranger has a story, and every choice has a consequence. This is StoryVerse Africa, where stories inspire better decisions. See you in the next story.